Are you still struggling connecting to Dataverse in your code apps? This video is for you. We're going to walk you through how to get started and make sure that you don't run into any barriers when using Dataverse with your code apps. Charles, where do we begin?
What we're going to do is we're going to add these Dataverse tables to the app, and you're going to see what happens when we do that.
And these commands, these are readily available on the Microsoft Learn documentation. There's nothing scary about these. Go and view the documentation. We'll link in the description below, but that's how you get these tables added from the code app point of view, right?
Yeah. So it's using the new npx Power Apps commands. It's saying add a data source. The data source API name is Dataverse because it's a Dataverse table. And then the table name for this is CHA_CarMake. So it's CarMakes. So we'll add those. So with the new npx commands, it now asks you to authenticate because, of course, we're not authenticated through PackCLI. So I'm already logged in, but it's asking me for the organization URL. So I'll just paste that into there and press enter, and then it's added the data source. So let's have a look at the data source before we go any further so that you can understand what really happened, what's going on with that. We're going back to our architecture side of things. So we've now got this .power folder, which is one where it has added files for us. So these are files that we should not change. Inside that, we have schemas. And then in that, we have app schemas and we have Dataverse. So inside app schemas, we have data source info, which is all of our data source information. So if we had more tables, you'd see all of those tables listed here. But it's essentially just some information about our tables. And then in our Dataverse folder inside of schemas, we've got the actual schema for that Dataverse table. So all of the things that make it up. We don't really need to worry about those. What's more interesting to us, as we talked about in the architecture video, is our source folder, because this is where we're working with things. And inside of here, we've got models and we've got services. So this is our CarMakes model. And in here, we have things like our choice sets. And we also have all of the columns that we've got for our table. So let's say, for example, let's pick out who it's created by. So we've got the created by name. What this is doing is it's telling our app that the created by name is a string. So if we had something like a number, it would tell us that it's an integer. It's that kind of concept. This is essentially telling us all of the types for our model and what our model is made up of. Then in services, we have a way to interact with that table. So as we scroll down here, we'll see things like create. So this is what we would access when we want to create a record. This is what we would access when we want to update a record. This is what we would access when we want to delete a record. And you can see it's not really too crazy. It's saying delete, just like you'd have in PowerFX. And then inside of your brackets, you've got ID, which is a string. So it's saying that it needs an ID parameter. It needs to know what to delete. So if you've been working with PowerFX and Canvas apps, this may have seemed crazy to you at first, but if you look into it, it's actually not that crazy. And then you've got get, so where you want to get a record, get all of the records, get metadata about that table.
And this is just plain JavaScript under the hood. Okay, this is TypeScript that it's actually using, but it's still not overly complex. When you start actually just breaking it down like that, it does seem to make sense, even for a non-coder that's not too difficult to understand. And the one thing I just want to add to this is if you are making changes to your Dataverse tables, your schemas in Power Apps, it won't sync automatically. You do have to kind of rerun the npx Power Apps add data source again, and that will obviously then just bring everything back together. It's not like a keep in sync type thing. So just something to watch out for there. So we've run through kind of the schema and the kind of actions that it calls when it's doing these operations. And that, in my mind, makes sense. I hope it makes sense to our viewers as well. What next? It looks like we need to just maybe wire some of this data up and maybe retrieve something from the app. Would you say we should try that and see if it works?
Yeah. So if we're wanting to write the code, if we don't understand JavaScript, we've got no hope, right? We can kind of understand what's going on, but how would we call these things? We have no idea. So instead, we can just chat with AI and we can ask it to do it for us. So what would be a good prompt for this? We're looking to list out our CarMakes on the index page.
And we've shown this in many a video now. It's going to go away, think about it, understand what the code's doing, and it's going to go and do an action and come back, hopefully, with it all set up and ready to go.
And the thing to bear in mind with this is that we're not using React at all. This is
Mhm.
just a plain JavaScript application that we've created. So it's completed and it completed pretty quickly. And here it's saying what it's done. So it's brought in that service that we were talking about, which is what you need to use to interact with the table. It's created a function called load car makes, which is going to load all of the car makes. And it's using that guess all function, which is what we looked at in this file, which was here. So that's all good. And then it's rendering them all in a list, an unordered list. And then it's calling that load car makes. So let's switch over to it. Here you can see we've got all of our car models. And then if I go to here, you can see the car makes.
This is in Dataverse, right? This isn't our app. If anyone who hasn't seen this interface before, just for
Yes.
clarity.
Yeah, this is in make.powerapps.com, and we've just gone into our solution, which is called blank.js, and we've gone to car make, and we have a list of car makes. And then this is our app, and it's saying no car makes found. If we refresh the app, then hopefully it will load the car makes for us. So this is an important learning for people who aren't used to working with code apps. It does have hot reload. And what hot reload means is that as you change something in your app and you save the file, it will automatically update in your browser and you don't need to refresh the page. However, that only applies for the client side things. If you're doing something like adding a data source, adding a connector, you're going to need to refresh the app for that to come through. So bear in mind, you might make some changes and you might think, oh, this is not working. Or maybe you just need to refresh the app because it needs to reconnect to the Power Platform service.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, we can see here the car makes have come through in a nice, very kind of plain formatted list, but it proves the
Yeah.
concept, doesn't it? Which is actually all that's done there is it's called that function that we showed, that get all function from our Dataverse table, and it's retrieved it and rendered it in our app. That is it. There's nothing complicated as such in terms of getting this running. It looks complicated, but again, the AI element really helps with that element of simplifying it and making it a no code experience. You can now take this and, you know, add in um, the ability to delete those records or add to those records or edit those records or, start putting your kind of design on top. That's the kind of basic fundamentals here. So it's not anything magic. There is logic to it. It's just understanding kind of what bit does what and how it all glues together. And that's going to get you probably further than a lot of people can get with this type of stuff. So really interesting to see.
So the file that we're looking at right now is the file that we saw in our architecture video. And if you go back and watch that video, you'll see that this file was absolutely tiny. It was basically just saying, get me the app ID element, which is just a div, and then put my HTML into that. Now we've developed that file a bit further using AI. And now what it's doing is it's bringing through our CarMakes service and it's bringing through our CarMakes model. And then it's created this function for us, which it's calling at the bottom of the screen. So this function is doing everything that we see when we're looking at this page. So that's pretty cool. It's really not that much code. When you're looking at the code for, say, the example starter kit that you get with code apps where it's using React, there's tons of code. And that's because React needs tons of code. It's got loads of boilerplate. But this is the reality of using it. So what it's doing is it's saying, I want you to print out the heading of car makes and then a paragraph of loading. And then what it's going to do is it's going to try to do something. So if you remember try and catch from, say, Power Automate, it's the same concept. We've got a try and a catch here. So what it's trying to do is it's waiting for the car make service to give it all of the car makes. So that's the first thing it's doing. It's using a wait because it's asynchronous. So it's not going to happen instantly. We load our page and then it goes and asks for that data. And then it's either going to come back with nothing and then it will say no car makes found, or it's going to come back with something and it's going to list out those car makes, or we're going to catch the error and then it's going to say that there is an error with it. And it's as simple as that. It's really simple.
Yeah, you can really see, you can almost read it like without knowing what it's actually doing. You can read what it's doing. It's not difficult. When you remove all that React boilerplate, it just makes it make a lot more sense. So that's why we've kind of taken that approach in this video to try and make it a bit more simpler for you, the viewers, to kind of understand. So hopefully that's been useful.
Yeah. So if you are struggling with different parts of interacting with Dataverse or interacting with connectors, Tell us in the comments what you're struggling with. And then if there's enough demand for it, then we'll cover it in a future video. So don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all before. But yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.